We didn't come this far to slow down now. Let 2021 be the year that you light up, that you wake up, that you shake up that special something in your soul, that you reach out and work for that health, that life, that vibrant living you know is possible. Let this be the year. Let this be the day. Let this be the moment that you believe in miracles again. Hey, everybody, it is Dr. Devin and
Dr. Joey.
Dr. Joey Vrana. I am honored and grateful to have my handsome husband in the studio with me today. We're going back in time to talk about a little thing called the big idea. Yes, the big idea 2021. So little backstory on this little event that we came up with a few years ago. This is number 3 for us. And I came to my husband back in 2017 and said, hey, let's do a wild and crazy thing.
And I said, not sure about that.
I don't know. Took a little arm twisting, but he's always there to support my wild, crazy ideas. Sometimes just a little more hesitant than others. But we did it. And it was just going to be a one-time thing. And then it grew. And this year was extra special because the world's a little nuts. Yeah.
Yeah.
Felt good to accomplish it, yeah?
A little nuts would be
an understatement. Yeah. And there's a lot on the line these days. And so we are parents. We are wild-hearted chiropractors trying to do the best to make a difference in the world. And so this event means a lot to us. Now, typically, we do it in the fall. But this year, I came to him after looking at some venues and kind of watching the temperature of how life has been playing out. And I said, I don't think we should wait for the fall. Let's do it in the summer. Another wild, crazy idea, because instead of 6 months of planning, we did 6 weeks. Mm-hmm. How'd you feel about that?
I loved it. It went very well. And so I think third time's a charm. We definitely eliminated some things that needed to be eliminated, and we fixed some things. And so it was fantastic.
Yeah, and historically, this was just all about adding value for our practice members. We were doing it for our friends and family here in Wichita, and then inviting our chiropractic family to be here with us as well. This year, it took on a tone of health freedom, and we just want to give you some of our favorite highlights and takeaways because we had a wide variety of speakers this year. Probably best feedback that we've gotten so far because there was something for everyone. And it was within your interest and comfort zone. And some of the speakers took people out of their interest and comfort zone in a really good way. So let's jump in. We'll talk first about Dr. Katina Manning. And she has had a podcast episode with me. I'm going to link that in this video. She talks about her ABCs. And this is one of my favorite. This woman is just pure light. And A is, when we get things bumping into us, whether it's challenges, whether we're in a health journey, whether it's relationships, she said she tries to walk herself through A, B, C. So she takes a look. It's A is awareness. What is going on? B, she takes time to just be and breathe with the situation. And then C, she makes a conscious choice. I think if the world understood that concept, how to ABC, how to allow and become aware of what the situation is, and to just take a second to be and breathe with it, and then make a conscious choice, whether you're, whether it's the health decisions, treatments that we're, deciding through, what school we put the kids in, what foods we eat, what healthcare practitioner we go with, what we do in a relationship. Those ABCs were big for me. What are your thoughts on Dr. Katina?
She's one of my favorites. She's like the grandma,
fairy godmother.
Had, but
yeah,
she's more like the grandma that everyone would want, So she's fantastic. She's just so happy all the time and just full of joy and just so excited. She's like a little kid that's just so excited to be present in your space. So she's fantastic.
And sometimes it's not, even whether it's on this podcast or whether it's at an event or at a dinner party, sometimes it's not like what we're teaching. It's who we're being. What kind of presence do you hold? And Katina lights up the room, not because of what she was teaching, but because of the light she was shining. Just such a good remember. Joy goes a long way, friends. So if you could just put on a smile, you never know what kind of impact that's going to have on people on the other side of it. So always grateful for that hippie joy she brings. Next, let's talk about Dr. Tim Young. So we got a shout out to him because he does an event called Focus OKC. And because we went to his events, it inspired us to do this event. So it's always an honor when you get to bring one of your mentors to your hometown to share his story. How would you describe Tim Young and the talks that he shared?
Tim's one of my all-time favorites. He has, from the first time I saw him in chiropractic school, he was muscly and authentic, and he talked about moving bones, and it just always resonated with me that I've just always looked up to Dr. Tim, and great, rock solid dude.
It's because there was something in me. There was something there. And it's something in all of us. And this is my message to you all. I don't care where you sit, where you're from, where you're from, how old you are. It's irrelevant. I've been doing this too long, man. And so my story is I went from here, and my father was a meat cutter, a butcher. And that was what I was groomed to be. I did a lot of it. I'm glad God had another plan for it. I promise you that. So we go from here, and we move from the hills to the big city, Springfield, Missouri. Ever been to Springfield? Yeah, okay, the big city, right? Crying out loud. So we moved to the city for a year, and my father, you've heard the story, you can take the hillbilly out of the hills, but you will never take the hillbilly out of the hills out of the hillbilly. My father, oh my gosh. We moved to town. The first thing he did was dug up the backyard and put in nothing but tomato plants. He went deer hunting and killed a deer and he hung in the front yard. What you don't know is High Street Baptist Church was across the street. Oh yeah, he got called Bambi Killer and all. And what's the big deal? The police showed up. Sir, you got to hang that in the garage. He didn't understand, right? This is how I was raised. I'm trying to give you a bird's eye view of how this little kid was raised. So then he gets sick of living in the city. He moves us back out to the hills. So we go to this little town called Hurley, Missouri, which is about 40 miles outside of Springfield. And all of a sudden, I'm in the 4th grade. I'm the new kid. I'm a city boy because we moved from Springfield. Wait. I'm so far deep in the hills. You all are city kids compared to what I am, but I'm tiny. I'm a little bitty guy. I was a 98-pound freshman in high school. This is 4th grade, so what, maybe 50 pounds? Hell, I don't know. I was a little bitty guy. Had no friends. 0 friends. It was the loneliest, darkest year of my life, probably. But it was the most transformational. And the story I'm going to tell, and I call it Plant Your Feet. So, here I am in the 4th grade. I weigh about 50 pounds. No one likes me. Everybody's picking on me. I'm like Napoleon Dynamite. I can play tetherball, and that's about all I can do. And this kid that was in the 6th grade who failed the 6th grade twice. He was supposed to be in the 8th grade. He's supposed to be at the bottom of the hill at the big school. So you know how much a kid grows from the 6th grade to the 8th grade, right? I'll call this kid Jethro, because that's exactly what he looked like, from all you know what I'm talking about. He was a grown man. He was huge. And he decided he didn't like me. I don't know why. He chased me to the bus every day. It's like one of those Hallmark movies. Remember on Saturdays you watch that? That's me. Terrified by this monster. He chased me to the bus every day. I literally would sit in class and just wait for that bell to ring. And as soon as it rang, I'd step to the door, I'd look both ways, and take off running. I'm going to go to the school and get a picture one of these days so you can see that. And I jumped the stairs, ran to the bus, and he was on my ass every time. One day, that's something inside me. Wasn't pre-planned. It was none of this. I get to the bus, and before I step into the bus, and he's right on me, I can feel him. Something snapped, and I planted my foot, and I swung. Caught him right in the nose. Now, looking back, I've replayed this a million times, and it was one of those things that, he saw me turn, and it was like a parking lot, but it had gravel on it, so he was already kind of trying to slow down, because like, okay, this kid just turned around, so he was already kind of leaning back, but right on his back he went. And I flew up in that bus, petrified. I got down in the seat, and I was like, oh please, oh please, oh please. And then the bus pulled off. I was like, whew, okay, I'm safe for at least another day. But I knew what was coming the next day. I mean, I'm dead, I'm murdered, right? But you don't go home and tell your parents. Where I was raised, you take your ass whippings. And if you tell your father about it, you're going to get another ass whipping, right? It's just a way, it's just a different way. So I get to school the next day, I get called down to the big school. I'm in trouble for hitting this kid. And I'm like, excuse me here? He's like a grown man. I'm this little bitty boy in 4th grade, and I'm the one getting in trouble. I'm like, you know what? I'll accept this. So I leave, he leaves. Day later, I'm in a little boy's restroom, washing my hands, and this kid walks into the bathroom, and he sees me. He almost breaks his neck getting out of the bathroom, getting away from me. Oh, hell yeah. From that moment, right then, I never, ever ran from another fight. Ever.
Amen.
I mean, he is the most certain, simple human that I have ever met. Those two things, right? And certainty and conviction in today's uncertain world go a long way.
Yeah, and he just talked about from the sticks to the bricks. He talked about he showed pictures of his house he grew up in.
Came from nothing.
And the house that he's in today. And it's by no means, and he even said that to boast or brag. It's just, it's the journey that we're all on. We're all trying to do better. And whatever you put your mind to is totally possible.
Yeah, and because he lives a life of service, right? These doors open for him and for his family, because he talked about bringing up young kids, you know, from a really they had nothing coming out of chiropractic school. And then him and his wife decided, you know, we're shooting for the moon. And along the way, we want to see how many people we can serve. And because they live that life and they live that truth, man, and it's just such a good reminder watching him take the stage. He always adjusts Billy DeMoss, who we're going to talk about here in a second. But that moment for the whole audience is such a gift, because we play the music, there's some lights going, it's this big, crazy moment, but Tim is so focused, laser focused on his hands, on his heart, on his intention on what he's doing. And coming back into practice, you know, after that weekend and after getting to go to Focus, I mean, speak to what that could bring to chiropractors or healthcare practitioners in general, focusing on the people at that kind of level.
Yeah, it's unparalleled. We went to the adjusting seminar with Dr. Young here last weekend at Focus, and it just was just this reminder that you always should be trying to learn, especially from masters. But you kind of start to go through the motions where you think you already know what to do, you think you already know the adjustments. But I can tell you that those 4 hours with him working on specific chiropractic adjustments, and I learned some different adjustments that I got to take back to my patients. Yeah. And some troubled cases that are now doing better because of that. So that focus with each patient is so important. So
whether you're a chiropractor or an MD or a naturopath or an acupuncturist, it's the difference of our 5-year-olds using finger paints and Michelangelo painting the Sistine Chapel, right? It's the difference between playing and a masterpiece, becoming a master of your craft. And I just don't know anybody that exemplifies that like Tim.
Yeah, and you can be somewhere in body, but your mind can be somewhere else. He also put that up that if you're at work, there should be a bubble around everyone's head. And they should be able to get to read what you're thinking. So I don't care what profession
you're in.
That think about that for a little bit of when you're at work and when you're on a Zoom call and when you're trying to be there for your people, making sure that it can be put up that they could read whatever you're thinking at any time.
Imagine on date night if I could see that bubble above your head, right? Monster trucks, tires.
No, I'm present.
Ugh,
Fully
build.
the whole
Yeah.
time. Listening,
But
always listening.
right. But like the gift of the present moment and being all in of where you're at. So we're big fans of Dr. Tim. So thank you for those examples that you set for humanity, Dr. Tim. Next, we'll talk about Dr. Lona. I'm going to fangirl for a second. You guys go to Amazon, get you a copy of her new book, Reclamation, The Evolution of a Hot Mess. I'm so proud of my beautiful friend. And she, you know, if we go off what a person embodies when they take a stage, she is grace in every sense of the word. And, you know, as women, we always get the questions like, how do you balance it all? You're a mom, you're a doctor, you're all these things. And here comes Lona with her husband and 2 sons and her team. They drove from Wisconsin to Wichita in an RV, and she had a baby on her hip pretty much the whole day, breastfeeding, taking the stage. She runs a practice. I mean, she does it all, and she does it gracefully. So she's always, again, just such to witness a woman living the life by design that she does. I mean, it's, yeah, she empowers me to do the same.
Our electromagnetic energy. By the nature of you being alive, you are pulling things in. So what are you broadcasting, and how do you know it? I was going to say, when I was learning about the electromagnetic energy and the frequency, one thing that helped me understand it too is like, I'm 37, so when I was younger, we actually had radios that had antennas. And if the channel wasn't exactly where the frequency was coming in right, it would be staticky. But if you would stand closer to it, what would happen? You could hear it differently. But you didn't even have to touch it. Our energy bodies, this frequency is bigger than our meat suit. This is the most dense part of me, but it is not all of who I am. Just like ice, you add more energy into ice, it becomes liquid, and then you add more energy in and it becomes water vapor. Our energy systems aren't just met by our physical eye. And you start studying this more and more and you realize, where is your mind? Is it in your brain? Or are we just antennas picking up what's in the collective consciousness? Do you get that? So don't we want those of us that are aware and awake in here and know some things that we wish other people would know, and that's why we're going to use our voices and all the communication ways. We also are communicating just by the thoughts in our mind and the vision that we can see for humanity. Because if it's here, now it's going out everywhere. Some trippy stuff, but do you get what I'm saying? Okay. Wonderful. As my girl Devin said, we were having a conversation somewhere in the midst of COVID. And she's like, you know, some of us have been crying out for change for quite some time, about healthcare particularly. What did we think it was going to feel like to watch Big Pharma crumble? I think we're seeing it. And if you would have asked me 5 years ago if in my lifetime I thought we'd see the implosion of Big Pharma and vaccination, I would have said, I don't know. And I think we're witnessing it, and I think that's why it feels so rocky and they're pushing so hard.
Yeah. She just really impressed me, the work that she's done in the schools, taking chiropractic into schools and being able to check kids. If we can do an eye exam, we can do hearing checks. Why in God's name are we not checking the nervous system? Hello.
Right.
So the fact that she got that through in
Wisconsin. She worked with the school board up there to chiropractors. Reach out to Dr. Lona if that's something that you're interested in. I know she's working to create a model that would be reproducible. So if you work in your state organization, and I mean, think about it, right? Scoliosis checks. We understand that the brain and body are protected by the skull and the spine. When the spine is out of alignment, the nervous system doesn't work properly. Now, this can have lots of effects, but you think about attention and focus and, I mean, a whole host of health issues and the research that is now coming together of showing the improvements, right? So she's working on a lot of kids with ADHD and autism and being able to adjust them in school. I mean, did you ever have focus issues when you were a kiddo, right? And even our kids, like there are times where being able to adjust them allows them to center and focus and receive information, behave better in class, work better with others. And so again, fangirling, so proud of Dr. Lona. If that speaks your language.
Just a big shout out. Thank you, Lona, for everything that you've done. I can't imagine what it would be like in our school system if that was the case here in Kansas. So we're gonna have to get to work.
And when you say that, can't imagine, right? Like that woman, she gets a vision and she doesn't ask how. And she doesn't like look at the obstacles. She just says, that's where I'm going. And the universe is going to bring it to me. And that, again, clarity and certainty is so refreshing in today's world. Instead of complaining about what the world is not, Lona is a beautiful example of what the world could be. So love her. Love her. Let's talk about Billy. Billy DeMoss. How does one explain? And guys, this episode is our top highlights, but we're going to make sure that you get access if you want the virtual version of the big idea, because some of this, and Billy is one of them, it's impossible to put words to. So we're going to give you some highlights, but you really got to plug in to like bear witness to how that man presented at this year's event.
A 65 or 63.
I'm not sure.
63-year-old,
20-year-old, right? Yeah.
That like he's got a six-pack and is in better shape and has more energy than my kids. The guy's like a spark plug. So whatever Billy is doing and whatever juicing and different nutritional hacks he's doing, he just says it like it is because he's been in practice for so long. He's not afraid to take the reins off and let it fly. He's one of the crazy ones that thinks that he could change the world or we can change the world. And it's the crazy ones that usually end up they change the world. So,
and I've really gotten into vitamin D lately. I know I'm a mixer, so screw me, okay? All right. And I think everyone should be taking at least 30,000 units a day of vitamin D with vitamin K. And now what happens is when you have low vitamin D because of chemtrails or because we're inside all the time or because you wear sunblock, which is really you're wearing carcinogens, what you're doing is pushing your body into this hibernation mode where you actually start to store fat. So I see, and people that are of color have higher density of melanin in their skin. They need to be in the sun way more. And so these people are not getting enough vitamin D. Then they go into hibernation mode. They eat foods that are not. Their body craves sugars and fats and all this. And what happens is their body starts to slow down the metabolism. It screws up sleep cycles. So I'm a big advocate of doing that. Okay, I, as a surfer, had low vitamin D levels. Because what they're telling us to take is out there, they don't care about you. They want us sick and stupid. And the water you're drinking is loaded with fluoride. I swear to God, you take a shower here and it smells like a chlorine gas chamber. And I got to talk this Tuesday on the microbiome. Your microbiome is you. Your flora is you. Like, so you see people washing their hands incessantly with this isopropyl alcohol. What are you doing? You're killing off half your team. Like I was saying yesterday, go lick a friggin' banister or eat some shit off the floor. Go kiss a sweaty person. Quit being such a fucking pussy about everything. What are you living in a goddamn bubble? You're not bubble boy or bubble girl. You're meant to mingle with people and touch and feel and experience life. And let me say something else. Love your fucking country.
He's radical responsibility and radical authenticity. And I mean, he walked to the stage with a shirt and a hat. We'll flash a picture because I'm not going to say the words. It tags his video, but he comes up and he's one of those people that's going to take you to the edge and probably beyond of your comfort zone. And he asked, he was one when I was bringing him to Wichita and I'm thinking of my family and friends. I'm like, oh, God, he's really intense. But he is all of who he is. And that example alone is people loved him. I asked a bunch of practice members, like, who is your favorite speaker? Billy was my favorite. I mean, everybody.
He comes up with rock and roll songs playing and just like and I've been watching him when he came to that first Epoch.
Yeah.
10 years ago, 9 years ago, and it was no different. I mean, every time he just delivers an energy and a power and an enthusiasm, and he gets up there and just rocks it. So if you don't know,
Cal Jam,
you can obviously look him up and check him out.
Yeah,
So.
California Jam is set for January 2022. If you can get there, go. Because Billy, you know, he looks, there's no excuses with this man. It's like the air we breathe is toxic. The water we drink is toxic. Throw your TV out of the window. Like, don't use, he doesn't have a cell phone. He surfs regularly. Take a look at your food. He is a own your choices kind of guy. And I think that kind of, again, radical responsibility is exactly the medicine that humanity needs right now. And he has been calling out the systems for 10 years. I mean, since we've gotten to know him, and all of it's coming to reality. And he's like, I've been telling y'all. And he is the tip of the spear that way. And dang, he has a good time loving life too. And having our 10-year-olds and our 16-year-old get to be front row to see Billy just be Billy. Like it's a cool thing to put somebody like that on stage, so we give our kids permission to like be you. Don't be somebody else. Like, say what you want to say, stand in your truth, own who you are, and Billy is that.
You speaking on Cal Jam, it's not just try to get there. It's get there and take 5 friends. It's get there and take your staff. And it's not just our staff and what we do. It's like if you're going to a seminar, a growth seminar, if you're doing something, take your employees with you, or they don't know which direction you're pushing in. So anytime that you can elevate your employees and everyone and take everyone,
spouses, kids,
all of it. So everybody's on the same page, that can really be huge. So
even us trying to put words to what it was like to watch Billy, you can't. So like either you're there or you're not. And so when these events come up, please do your best to get there. We're going to keep the party rolling. Another Cali boy, Dr. Stan Home. I love Dr. Stan.
Yeah, he's got a great heart.
Oh, he's a teddy bear, and just like he's a dad, number one, and a husband, number one, and he will do whatever it takes to defend and protect his family. And that deep why, like witnessing somebody that like knows who they are and knows their why they do what they do, because he serves a mainly prenatal pediatric family practice in California in the midst of all this chaos. And he doesn't just talk about it, right? Like he walks his walk.
My wife, if I could tell this story, I'm so proud of her, because in the last 17 months, 17 months ago, she would never let me tell this story. Literally a week after, we had family members stay with us who had got the jab. We had the positive pregnancy test. And you don't always want to get super excited right away. Like I work with pregnancy, I work with fertility, right? Literally that's my practice. This is my thing. I know the stories, I know the shame, I know the pain, I know the longevity. I have a patient who has done $250,000 in pregnancy or fertility drugs. 6 months in chiropractic, she gets pregnant. She's a medical doctor. Shocked, right? Not to us. And then I thought, in your mind, you're like, maybe it's not it, right? And then you see the clotting. And then you see just irregular bleeding. And then you see that it doesn't stop. And then you think, what if everything I've done is fucking wrong? You question your principle, you question your belief when something like this happens. Because look at the speakers today. Do we vibrate at a different frequency? Do we own our lives? Everything we do, open every cabinet, open every fridge drawer, look at all of our budget. You know where we invest our money. In us, in health, in vibrancy. Every single cent accounted for. And this happens to us. And then you get into it where you know they know. And you know that they are creating this. And you know, because Pfizer comes out with their exposure during pregnancy. Do you guys read all that? Where it's like the different ways you could be exposed just by being with somebody, just by the whole shedding/transmitting. They know, right? And the inventor of the mRNA says, for sure, we're shedding the spike protein. For sure that's happening. And then you start to think, they did this to my family. And then it becomes really personal.
Yeah, he got us on a podcast here
last fall,
and we talked about the big idea, and he didn't come to the big idea, I don't think.
So he came to, so what he was interviewing us after the Freedom Revival. So in 2020, we did not do a big idea, but I helped our local Freedom group and another mom put on the Freedom Revival in the Heartland in September. And Dr. Stan in California went, Dev, how'd you do that? Dev, like, give me the insights. And he interviewed us, and then he went out and did one.
He went out and did it. Massive action. Nice job, Stan, to just take the bull by the horns and not talk about doing it, not think about talking about doing it, not think about thinking about doing it. No, he did it.
Yeah.
He did the deal.
He did the deal, and he's doing the deal. And it's, you know, he is a man of service. He was in the military, Dr. Stan. We had multiple people at the event that served in the armed forces. And so he's literally been at the battlefields. He's literally, like, we talk about freedoms. He gave his life to serve our freedoms. And so he is, when people like that speak, shut your mouth and listen. Like, he fought for us to be free in the United States, and he is now home fighting to protect the freedoms that he served for. And it's just like, it's so inspiring to see that. He has a podcast called Future Generations. It's amazing. He's relentless. He is just getting started, and to get to see the growth that he's put out into the world in his podcast, in his Instagram and stuff. Again, it's really inspiring because he's just a man on a mission to live free and fully alive with his family, and just a breath of fresh air. We'll go to another dad who lays it all on the line, Dr. Ben Tapper.
We are the influencers. I came here to convict you. My family doesn't want me speaking out right now because it's dangerous. I've had threats. I had a text message this morning that I'm not going to show because my wife and kids are here. I had someone drill a hole in my gas tank last week. This is spiritual warfare. I had hate messages, bad reviews. It's dangerous to speak out. It's not safe, but let me assure you, it's the safest thing we have. Now, they took out God, in God we trust, and put the word vaccines. And you understand, this is the golden calf. This whole agenda is being pushed on the people, and they're funneling you people in our family. The only way out of this is the vaccine. And I'm here to tell you that your body's ability to overcome disease and circumstances like corona is far greater than anyone, including our government, Dr. Fauci and Bill Gates, has permitted you to believe. The word dis-ease means away from ease. Dis-ease is a disturbed condition. It's not a thing or entity. Big Pharma wants to convince you that you have to become your diagnosis. So many people have taken on this identity as their diagnosis. I used to be there. I got thrown from a truck at 80 miles an hour. I broke my back in 3 spots. The doctor told me all the things I couldn't do. And thank God for chiropractic. I come from a family of chiropractors. You know, my dad passed the baton on to me when he sold his practice. He goes, Ben, what do you want? I said, I want all your books. He had vaccine books that he had that were written 100 years ago. Could we go to the next slide? Oh, I might be getting ahead of myself. But the thing is, I'm going to talk about, let's skip ahead just a little bit. Keep going, next slides. Okay, right here. The vaccine fight has been going on, newsflash, for 100 years. Some of you are like, oh my gosh, my eyes were open just last year to the whole vaccine narrative. But I'm going to tell you, I've been in this fight for a long time. As a young kid, my dad would talk to me about this and teach me about vaccines. And so I thought that was the norm. Everything, hey, we didn't vaccinate. I thought that was the norm. And I didn't realize how weird I was till I got older.
He's a lion.
Ben is a lion. He talks about his conviction is great. Your conviction and his conviction, right, has to be greater than your complacency. And you just got to let that sit for a minute because it's so powerful in just that. Your conviction has to be greater than your complacency. And he definitely embodies that in every way, shape, and form. So, yeah, he was pretty impressive. He always...
Yeah, I mean, and he's creating a documentary called "The Time Is Now," and he looked out to the audience on Friday. We met with just chiropractors. On Saturday it was for everybody. He looked out to both audiences and said, "What are you waiting for?" Right? Like, our time is now. He had his children with him. He had his wife with him, and he looked out to them and he said, "They need us now, not tomorrow. They need us today. Our children are going to have children who one day look at us and say, 'What did you do? What did you do when our future depended on it? What did you do? Did you stand up? Did you speak up?'" He is actually, since the big idea, been listed as one of the disinformation dozen. Multiple, actually, I think all of his accounts deleted. He's been wildly censored. He's received death threats. While he was at the event in Wichita, he shared a couple of threatening messages that he had received, moved to the point of tears, but standing firm in, this is wrong. Wrong is wrong, and I can't bear witness to deceits and lies and injustice and not do something about it.
Yeah, it should be called the information dozen.
Right. Yes. So that's the thing about what's ironic, right? We know a lot of the people on that list, right?
Sure.
And for the White House administration and for the media to call out these people, he's a good man.
He's
an honest man.
Yeah, he's just saying all the things that we all think on a regular basis and going,
and with profound love.
And a lot of just very from the Bible,
God-centered. Yes,
God-centered, and he puts it back on that and uses quotes from the Bible that is absolutely about what's going on in today's world and how wrong it is. So, yeah, Ben Tapper, we love him.
Thank you, Dr. Ben. And I want to speak a little light into when he took the stage. I asked the audience to just stop and pray and send light, and we can do that here in this moment. You can push pause and just pray for the people that are defending our country, that are defending our health freedoms, that are speaking out regardless of, the persecution on the other side of it, the censorship on the other side of it. But something he said to me was, I'm willing to die for this. And Dr. Joe Dispenza shared at a seminar that I went to that we have a psychology in all of us, in our brains, in our upbringings. We think about John Lennon. We think about JFK. We think about Martin Luther King. And these bright lights that served truth end up paying the ultimate price. Yeah. They end up in assassination, Abraham Lincoln. So these heroes that we've had throughout history pay literally with their life. And what Dr. Joe said was, it's time to rewrite that history and that psychology for our children, that we don't need to die for truth. We need to live for truth. What are you willing to live for, to stand for? And that's, Dr. Ben is that concept like really nobody else. So grateful to have him and his beautiful wife and their children at the big idea, and sending prayers for safety and protection to them and everybody. So.